Have you ever walked into a room, let's say it's a high stakes meeting or maybe just a really intense dinner party, and you meet someone who purely on a biological level is, well, unremarkable.
I mean, like average height, average build, maybe they're soft-spoken, someone who doesn't physically take up a lot of space.
Exactly. Just a regular person. You wouldn't look twice at them on the street. But the second they walk in, the air in the room just, it changes.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the static electricity gets cranked up to 11.
Yeah.
You feel a tension. You feel a presence. You find yourself sitting up a little straighter.
It's that feeling where, without them saying a single word, that there is a massive engine revving under the hood.
Yes.
It's palpable.
Right. And then conversely, you meet the guy who looks like a linebacker, physically imposing, maybe even a little bit scary, giant muscles. But you talk to him for 5 minutes and you feel like you're sitting by a still lake.
All the tension just dissolves.
It vanishes. You feel grounded.
It's the difference between the storefront and what's actually in the inventory. Or, as we're about to find out today, the difference between biology and, well, engineering.
We usually chalk this all up to vibes, right? We say, oh, he has an intense personality, or she has such a calming aura. But what if it's not just a vibe? What if it is actual structural physics?
That is the fundamental question we are tackling today. And I have to say, the stack of documents we are diving into, it's unlike anything we've covered recently.
It's dense.
It's dense, it's provocative, and it really challenges a lot of our default assumptions about who we are.
It really does. Today, we are deep diving into the work of Dr. Khaled Waleed, and specifically his treatise titled The Balance of the Self, Engineering the Spirit and Body Energetically and Structurally.
And I want to pause on that title for just a second. Engineering.
It's a very, very specific word choice. He didn't say the psychology of the self or the philosophy of the self.
And that one word changes the entire conversation. Usually when we talk about the soul or the self or personality, things get very abstract.
Yeah. Right.
We get philosophical. We talk about feelings and trauma and, inner children.
These soft sciences.
Exactly. But Dr. Waleed is coming at this like a structural engineer looking at a suspension bridge.
Okay.
He's proposing that the human being isn't just a cloud of feelings inside a meat sack. He's saying we are a built system, a machine with distinct components, power sources, and magnetic fields.
So the mission for this deep dive is to really deconstruct that blueprint. We are going to try and move beyond flesh and bone and look at what Dr. Waleed describes as the physics of the soul. And I want to warn you, listening to this gets technical.
It does.
We're going to talk about magnetism, polarity, the specific anatomical locations of where consciousness actually lives.
And a really radical idea that your thought and your reason are in two completely different parts of your body. That one really stopped me in my tracks when I first read it.
It blew my mind. We're also going to get to what he calls the matrix of personality types, which explains why a biological male can have a, let's say, female soul structure or vice versa. But we have to build the foundation first.
And we absolutely have to address the teaser you dropped in the pre-show, the difference between a fulfilled death and, well, destruction.
That part, I'm not kidding, that part actually kept me up last night. It turns life expectancy into a kind of mathematical equation of the soul.
Good heavy stuff.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with the basics. If we are going to understand this engineering of the self, we have to, I think, learn a new vocabulary.
Right. To understand Dr. Waleed's model, you have to realize that our English terms are often way too broad. We just lump things together. He makes a huge distinction right out of the gate between the visible and the invisible.
So usually when I say human, I'm thinking of the whole package. Me sitting here talking to you, mind, body, soul, the whole burrito.
That's the Western sort of holistic view. But Dr. Waleed takes a scalpel to that. He separates the components very precisely. He uses the Arabic term al-insan. The human, too, means something very, very specific.
Okay, so let's unpack al-insan. What is it in this model?
In this engineering model, the human, or al-insan, is strictly the hardware.
The hardware.
It is the visible material body, the flesh, the bone, the blood, the nervous system. It's the vessel that you can see in the mirror. That's it.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, my corpse is al-insan.
Yes. In a sense, yes. It represents the appearance. It's the car sitting in the driveway. It has wheels. It has paint. It has a steering wheel. But on its own, it does nothing. It has no agency.
It's inert matter.
It's useless hardware without the software and the power supply. And that is where the second term comes in, al-jan.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. Because for a lot of our listeners, I know the word jan or jinn carries a lot of baggage.
A lot.
We're thinking Aladdin. We're thinking genies and lamps, granting 3 wishes. Or maybe, if you know the folklore, you're thinking of invisible spirits or, demons haunting an old house.
Exactly, and we need to just clear that cache immediately. Forget the big blue guy played by Will Smith. Forget the horror movies. In Dr. Waleed's specific structural context, he is not talking about a separate creature that is haunting you.
Oh, so I don't have a ghost living in my chest.
No. Not in the way you're thinking, anyway. Dr. Waleed defines the yan based on its linguistic root, which means hidden or concealed. So in this model, the yan is the invisible energy container that lives within and around the physical body. It's the field.
Okay, I like that. The field. So the human is the solid matter, and the yan is the energy signature, the aura.
Precisely. Think of it like a computer. San is the plastic case, the screen, the silicon chips. Alman is the electricity running through it and the operating system, the Windows or Mac OS, that makes it actually do something. You can't see the software, but without it, the laptop is just a paperweight.
That's a really helpful analogy. So what is inside this yan container? What makes up this software?
The source material breaks the yan down into a bundle of 3 specific energies. First, you have the spirit, the ruh.
Okay, the spirit.
Second, you have the self or the soul, the nafs. And third, you have the energy body itself.
Wait, the energy body is distinct from the physical body?
Yes.
Yeah.
The energy body is the template. It's the blueprint. The physical body, the Al-Insan, just fills in that template with atoms. But the yan holds the shape.
This actually clears up a linguistic point the author makes. He talks about the people versus the hidden.
Right. Al-Nas, which translates to the people, refers to the collective of physical bodies we see walking around. We see a crowd of people at a concert. That is Al-Nas.
I see bodies.
You see bodies. But Al-Jina, the hidden, refers to the collective of energetic forces driving them.
So if I'm walking through Times Square, I'm seeing Al-Nas. I'm seeing all the physical humans. But I had, thermal goggles, or let's call them spiritual goggles. I would see Al-Jina. I would see the energy fields interacting, clashing, merging with each other.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And here is the core concept that really flips the script. The physical body, the human, is just a shell. Dr. Waleed goes so far as to imply it's almost a puppet.
A puppet.
The real driver, the thing that determines who you actually are, is the energetic interplay happening inside that Jan container.
So if we want to understand why someone is calm or fiery, going back to our intro, looking at their muscles or their genetics is looking in the wrong place.
Completely wrong place.
We are staring at the puppet and totally ignoring the strings.
It's like trying to understand why a website is slow by staring at the computer monitor. The monitor is just displaying the output. The problem, or the feature, is in the code.
Okay. This leads us to the most structural part of Dr. Waleed's theory, and this is where the engineering part of his title really, really kicks in. He starts talking about magnets.
The magnet analogy. This is foundational. If you don't get this, none of the rest of the model makes sense.
I love this because it's so tangible. Everyone has played with magnets. We all know how they feel when they push and pull. It's a force you can feel, but you can't see.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed compares the nafs, to a magnet. Now, bring yourself back to high school physics for just a second. What is the one absolute unbreakable rule of magnets?
Opposites attract.
Well, yes, that's true, but there's something even more fundamental about their structure. Can you ever have a magnet that is only a north pole?
No. If you have a north pole, you have to have a south pole. It comes as a set. You can't separate them.
Correct. Physics prohibits what's called a monopole. Even if you take a bar magnet and you chop it in half, you don't get a separate north piece and a south piece.
No, you get 2 smaller magnets.
You get 2 new, smaller magnets, and each one has its own north and south. They are inseparable.
Okay, I'm with you.
Dr. Waleed applies this exact law to the human soul. He says every single human soul contains 2 energetic poles. You cannot exist without both.
And he names these poles using those same terms we just defined, which is a little confusing, so let's parse it carefully. He calls them the ins pole and the jin pole.
Right. And it's important not to get hung up on the words human and hidden here. Think of them as energetic qualities. Think of them as positive and negative charges. Or, an even better way to think about it is stability versus volatility.
Okay, let's define the ins pole first. What does that energy feel like? If I'm operating from my ins pole, what am I doing? What am I feeling?
The ins pole represents the human-like quality within the energy field. It is the anchor.
The anchor.
It represents stability, calmness, structure, cooling. It's gravity. It wants to stay put. It wants order.
It's the part of me that wants to sit on the couch and read a book. It's the part of me that wants to balance my checkbook and organize the garage.
Yes, it's the desire for safety and routine. It's the solid part of your personality. It keeps you from flying off into space.
Okay, then what about the Jinn pole?
The Jinn pole is the total opposite. It represents the hidden fiery quality. It is movement, heat, tension, high energy. It's the engine revving at 7,000 RPM.
It wants to go.
It wants to go. It wants to break things. It wants to change things. It wants action.
Yep, chaos.
Not necessarily chaos, though it definitely can be if it's uncontrolled. Think of it more like kinetic potential. It's the explosion in the combustion engine. Without that explosion, the car doesn't move.
So, we all have both of these, no exceptions.
We must have both. To exist is to have this polarity. Just like a battery needs a plus and a minus to generate any power at all.
Right.
If you were only ins, you'd be inert. You'd be like a rock. You'd have no drive, no ambition, no warmth. If you were only Jinn, you'd just burn out or explode. You'd be pure plasma.
So life, actual human life, is the tension between these two poles. The push and the pull.
Yes. And this is where it explains the vibes we talked about at the beginning. Dr. Waleed says that while the poles are equal in potential, they are both there, they have equal strength, they aren't always equal in dominance.
That's the variable.
That's the key. Imagine an old-fashioned scale. The weights on both sides might be available, but the scale tilts. And that tilt, or that inclination, is what determines your fundamental personality. Who is in charge of your dashboard? Is it the calm, structured ins, or is it the fiery, impulsive Jinn?
So when I meet that person who is super intense, walking around like a storm cloud, they're Jinn dominant.
Their magnet is tilted toward the Jinn pole. Their resting state is high voltage.
And the calm guy who grounds the entire room.
He's In's dominant. His resting state is stability. He tends to absorb energy rather than project it.
Now here is the million-dollar question for me. Is this something we learn? Do I become Jinn dominant because my parents yelled at me, or because I drink too much coffee, or is this factory settings?
Dr. Waleed is very, very specific about this, and it's one of the most fascinating parts of his research. He argues for what he calls the pre-existence of inclination.
Meaning we are tilted before we are even born.
Factory settings. Before the car even rolls off the assembly line, the engine is already tuned to be a certain way.
How does he back that up? Because that sounds... Well, it sounds like destiny. That sounds like I don't have a choice in my basic temperament.
He uses examples from the natural world to ground this idea. He talks about migratory birds.
Oh, right. The source mentions that.
Think about a bird inside an egg. It hasn't seen the sky. It hasn't seen a map. It has no parents teaching it geography. But the moment it hatches and is strong enough to fly, it knows exactly where to go.
It knows south.
It knows south.
Yeah.
That knowledge isn't learned. It's structural. It's magnetic. It is responding to the magnetic fields of the Earth because its own internal magnet is already calibrated.
Wow. He also mentions bees, right?
Yeah, the queen versus the worker.
Yeah.
Before the physical formation is even complete, the role is determined. There's a decision made in the blueprint phase before construction even begins.
Okay.
Dr. Waleed suggests the human soul, the Nafs, has this magnetic inclination, this dominance of ins or Jinn, before it even enters the physical body.
That is just wild to think about. It really challenges the whole blank slate theory we're taught.
It completely destroys the blank slate theory. It suggests that you arrive with a personality. And honestly, any parent will tell you this. They have two kids, raise them the exact same way, and one is a Zen master from day one, and the other is a chaotic tornado.
So I might have been born with a Jinn dominance, meaning I was essentially wired to be high energy and a bit chaotic before I ever took my first breath.
Or wired to be a disruptor, a change maker. High energy isn't inherently bad. It's high voltage. You have to handle it differently.
True. But this begs the question, who sets the tilt? If the soul is the magnet, who or what magnetizes it in the first place?
Now we are climbing the ladder of authority. This brings us to what Dr. Waleed calls the hierarchy of decision.
This is the great debate in the source material. Is it the soul, the nafs, that's deciding, or is it the spirit, the ruh?
And Dr. Waleed is very clear on the hierarchy here. The spirit is the boss.
The spirit is the command.
Yes. He attributes the spirit, the ruh, to the command of the Lord. I'm smart. He describes the spirit as being masculine or heavenly in its essential nature.
Okay, now, can you clarify masculine here? Because we're going to talk about gender in a minute, and I don't want people getting confused thinking this means men have spirits and women don't, or something ridiculous like that.
That's a very good catch. When he says the spirit is masculine, he doesn't mean biological male. He means projective. He means it's the force that initiates. In a lot of ancient philosophy and engineering, the masculine principle is the seed, the spark, the lightning.
And the feminine principle.
The feminine is the womb, the earth, the thing that receives the spark and nurtures it into form.
Okay, so the spirit is the lightning.
Yes, and the soul, the magnet, is the field that receives that lightning and gives it a shape to work with.
So if the soul is the magnetic field, the spirit is the electricity running through it.
That's the perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
The spirit acts as the electrical current that activates the magnetic field of the soul.
Okay, let's trace the mechanism of creation here. According to Dr. Waleed, how do we go from nothing to a person standing in front of me?
Okay, step one. The soul exists with that potential polarity. It has the raw materials of ins and jinn, but it's dormant. It's just a magnet sitting on a shelf.
It has no current running through it.
Exactly. Step two. The spirit enters. It is the decision maker. It fixes the polarity. It basically decides, okay, this soul is going to be jinn dominant. We need a warrior for this particular life. Or this soul is going to be ins dominant. We need a peacemaker.
And this is the part that connects it all to the body. It simultaneously determines the physical gender of the vessel.
Yes. Dr. Waleed connects this to the Quranic concept that God bestows males and females. In his model, the spirit is the carrier of that divine order. It shapes the physical vessel to match the mission it has been given.
So the spirit decides, I need a high-voltage engine, a jinn soul, and I'm going to put it inside a male chassis, a male body.
Or female chassis. The chassis and the engine are separate decisions.
So the result is a three-part system.
A three-part system. The spirit is the pilot, the soul is the engine, and the body is the vehicle.
I love that. The spirit is the pilot, the soul is the engine, the body is the vehicle. But here is where Dr. Waleed throws a real wrench in the works. Or maybe he hands us a skeleton key. The engine doesn't always match the vehicle in the way we expect.
This is the section we've started calling the matrix of types. And honestly, this is the part where you might need to pause the podcast and just look at the people in your life.
Yeah.
Because you are going to start seeing this everywhere.
We so often conflate gender with energy, don't we? We think male automatically equals aggressive jinn, and female automatically equals commons. That's the cultural stereotype.
Biology equals destiny. That's the old simplistic way of thinking.
But Dr. Waleed says, no, those are completely independent variables.
Completely independent. Physical gender, male-female, is the body. That's the vehicle. Energetic polarity, ins jinn, is the soul. That's the engine. You can mix and match these.
Which gives us 4 distinct archetypes. I want to walk through these slowly because I feel like this explains so much relationship conflict and misunderstanding in the world.
Let's do it. It's fascinating.
Okay, archetype 1, the male body with an ins soul.
All right, so picture that ins energy again. Cool, stable, grounding, peaceful. Now put that inside a man.
This is the steady Eddie. This is the rock.
This is the rock. He's rational. He has very low volatility. He doesn't get riled up easily. If the house is on fire, he's the one calmly looking for the fire extinguisher, not the one screaming.
So he looks like a man. He has a man's body, but his internal engine is actually the soft or stable polarity.
Correct. And that's not a weakness. It's a structural feature. He provides gravity. He is the anchor in a storm.
Okay, archetype 2, the male body with the jinn soul.
Okay, so now you have a male vessel, and you drop a Ferrari engine inside it. High heat, high movement, high voltage.
This is the stereotypical alpha, isn't it? The one we see in movies.
Often, yes. He is impulsive, he's quick to anger, but he's also quick to action. He's the warrior, he's the revolutionary. He's the guy who starts a startup and works 20 hours a day because he literally cannot sit still.
His magnet is just naturally tilted toward volatility.
Exactly. He creates static electricity just by walking into the room.
Okay, now let's flip the body. This is where it gets really, really interesting for me. Archetype 3. The female body with an ins soul.
The stable woman. This is the archetype that most closely matches the traditional view of femininity. She has this warm, organized, peaceful energy.
The nurturer, the caretaker.
Yes. But structurally, why is she nurturing? According to this model, it's not just because of hormones or social conditioning. It's because her ins pole is dominant. She's a cooling force. When the jinn-dominant male comes home vibrating with stress from his day,
she grounds him, she absorbs the excess charge.
Exactly. She brings the system back into balance.
And finally, archetype 4. The one that in our society usually gets labeled as difficult or bossy or too much. The female body with a jinn soul.
The powerful woman. The leader.
The boss lady.
She has a female vessel. She might look very feminine on the outside, but her engine is running on that high-octane jinn energy. She's not passive, she initiates, she challenges, she leads from the front.
And society often doesn't know what to do with her.
Because they see the female vehicle and they expect the quiet ins engine. And when they get the jinn fire instead, they think something is wrong. They say she's abrasive or too aggressive.
A Dr. Waleed would say.
He would say. She is engineered that way for a reason. It's not a flaw. It's a design choice made by the spirit. She has a high-voltage mission that requires that specific engine.
He uses some examples from nature to prove that biology doesn't dictate this energy. I think he mentions the peacock, which is a great example.
He does. Look at the male peacock.
It's flamboyant, it's beautiful, it's putting on a huge show.
It's like a male body, but the behavior, the display, the allure, the focus on beauty is an energy we typically associate with the feminine or the attractive principle. It implies a complexity of energy that contradicts the hard utility we sometimes expect from maleness.
And then there's the lioness.
The classic example. The lioness is a female body, but what does she do? She hunts, she kills, she organizes the pride's attack strategy. She has aggressive, kinetic, jinn-like energy.
Well, the big male lion.
The male lion often sits back. His job is to protect the territory, which is a stability function, an ends function, while the females are out expending all this kinetic energy, which is a jinn function.
That's a fantastic flip. So the big takeaway here is your physical form does not dictate your energetic signature.
And understanding that helps us stop judging people and ourselves for not fitting into a neat little box. If you are a man with an in-soul, stop trying to force yourself to be some jinn-type aggressive. You'll just burn out your circuits.
Right.
You are built for stability. Own the gravity you bring.
And if you are a woman with a jinn soul, stop apologizing for it. Stop trying to be the passive observer if your spirit is screaming to lead.
Exactly. Drive the car you were given, not the one society tells you you should have.
So we have the pilot, the spirit, the engine, the soul, and the vehicle, the body. But where do these things actually live, like physically? Because Dr. Waleed gets very specific about the anatomy of this, and this leads us into Section 5, the anatomy of consciousness.
He does. And this is where we have to perform some surgery on our modern understanding of the brain. We usually think everything important happens in the brain.
The brain thinks, the brain feels, the brain decides. End of story.
And the heart is just a pump, a very important pump, but just a piece of plumbing.
Right.
But Dr. Waleed separates the functions based on his engineering model. He divides the whole system into the head and the chest.
Okay, let's start with the head. What is the head's job in this model?
The head is the domain of the spirit.
Yep.
Its occupant is what he calls the mar, which translates to the person or the spirit.
And what does it do up there?
Its function is fikr, which we translate as thought. But thought here isn't figuring things out or doing math problems. It's the spark. It's the raw idea. It's consciousness, will, vision. It is the command.
So the idea strikes in the head. It's the lightning bolt from the pilot.
Yes. It's the pure impulse, I will do this. I see this. But an idea isn't a decision. It's just a proposal. And that proposal has to be sent somewhere for processing. That leads us to the chest.
The domain of the soul.
Exactly. The chest contains the qalb, which we know is the heart, but in this context means the soul. And its function is actual reason or mind.
Wait a minute. Reason is in the heart. We always say, listen to your heart, not your head, implying the heart is irrational and emotional.
Dr. Waleed flips that completely on its head. He says akal, or reasoning, is the process of binding or analyzing that spiritual thought that came from above. The word akal in Arabic is related to the word for a rope used for tying or binding, like tying a camel so it doesn't wander off.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's about restraint and analysis, not just raw emotion.
Exactly. So the heart soul receives the raw spark from the head spirit and it processes it. It weighs it against emotion, inclination, desire, and testing. It binds the raw, chaotic energy of the idea into a coherent plan.
Okay, give me an example. So the head says, we should go to the gym. That's the spirit's command.
Right, that's the fikr. It's a pure, high-level directive from the pilot.
And the heart chest receives that command and says, yeah, but I'm tired and the couch is comfy, but also I want to be healthy for my kids. That whole internal debate, that's akal.
That is akal. That is the mind working in the chest. It's the engine weighing the fuel, checking the oil, deciding if it wants to engage the gears based on its own condition and desires.
That is a completely different way to look at decision-making. It makes the heart the laboratory where the decision is actually cooked and finalized.
And there's a kinetic, almost astronomical component to this relationship. Dr. Waleed analyzes the phrase, God comes between a person and his heart.
I've heard that before. It usually sounds like a blockage, like God is putting up a wall between you and your feelings.
But Dr. Waleed interprets it as pure engineering. He says coming between doesn't mean blocking. It implies a helical or spiral movement.
A spiral, like a corkscrew.
Exactly. Imagine the spirit, the person in the head, rotating around the soul, the heart and the chest. It's an orbital mechanic. The spirit orbits the soul to create consciousness and balance.
Like an electron orbiting a nucleus in an atom.
That's a perfect analogy. And if that orbital movement stops, the system fails. The consciousness collapses.
So we are literally a dynamo, a living generator.
We are. And that rotation creates what we can call the current of action.
Okay, let's trace that circuit, because this really explains why we do what we do, or maybe more importantly, why we fail to do what we know we should do. This is the practical application of all this theory.
It's a 7-step circuit, according to Dr. Waleed. And once you hear this, you can literally watch it happen in your own body in real time. It's amazing.
All right, step 1.
Step 1. The spirit in the head initiates a thought. This is the proposal. The light. I should call my mother.
Yeah.
A simple, pure command.
Okay, step 2.
Step 2. The head converts this thought into a spiritual feeling. Sure. It gives it a vibe, if you will.
Yeah.
It attaches a sense of importance or goodness or urgency to it. It's not just a command, it's a good command.
Got it. Step 3.
Step 3. The current descends. It travels from the head down to the chest. It moves from the pilot's cockpit to the engine room. Step 4. The soul in the chest receives it. But it doesn't receive it as a thought. It receives it as sensation. It becomes visceral. You feel a pang in your chest, a warmth, or maybe a knot of anxiety.
Okay, step 5. This sounds like the important one.
This is the critical moment.
Yeah.
Step 5. The heart processes it via reason, aquil. The soul looks at the spirit's proposal and checks its own magnetic tilt. Does this align with my sensation stability or my jinn fire? It weighs desires. Do I want to make the call? Am I too busy? What did she say last time we talked?
Step 6.
Step 6. The decision. If the soul accepts the spirit's command, it becomes will or determination.
Mashia.
The engine roars to life and engages.
Then finally, step 7.
Step 7. The body executes the action. Emil, you pick up the phone and dial.
This explains so much about internal conflict. The conflict is happening at step 5. It's the war between the pilot's orders and the engine's inclinations.
Precisely. That is the battlefield, right there in your chest.
It defines good and evil in a structural way, doesn't it? It takes the morality out and replaces it with physics.
It does. In this model, good is when the soul in the chest aligns with the pure command of the spirit in the head. The magnetic field accepts the electric current. There is harmony. The circuit flows without resistance.
And evil.
Evil is just resistance. It's when the soul rejects the spirit's proposal. Usually this happens because of a jinn dominance. That instability or impulse creates static in the line. The heart says, no, I don't want to do that noble thing. I want to do this impulsive thing instead.
So the spirit says, tell the truth. And the jinn-dominant soul says, no, lie. It's safer, faster, more exciting.
And the circuit either breaks or it reroutes into a negative action. The energy has to go somewhere.
This implies that life itself is basically a wrestling match.
Dr. Waleed explicitly defines life as sira, which means struggle or wrestling.
It's the constant tension between the poles.
Exactly. You know the phrase, unlike poles attract, like poles repel. In the soul, that constant push and pull creates movement. That movement is life. If there were no struggle, if the poles were perfectly static and balanced, you'd be dead.
Speaking of death, this brings us to what I think is the most provocative, maybe even unsettling part of the notes, the mathematics of destiny. Dr. Waleed makes a very sharp distinction between two types of death based on when they happen.
This is where the engineering model gets applied to the timeline of a life. He distinguishes between tafiyya, which is like fulfillment, and halak, which is more like destruction.
Okay, let's start with the positive one, tawfiyya.
Tafiyya implies completion. The root of the word means something like paid in full. Dr. Waleed posits that this occurs when the soul reaches a 0 point of balance. The struggle between good and evil, between the ins and jinn poles, finally resolves.
The wrestling match ends in a draw.
A perfect equilibrium. The magnet is balanced. And he associates this with old age. He specifically gives a threshold of typically over 50 years old.
The source mentions the story of Jesus, or Isa here.
Yes. The scripture says Jesus was raised or fulfilled, mutawaffiq. He completed his mission, his energy was balanced and brought to a state of completion. In this model, he didn't just die, he finished.
And the other side of that coin, halak.
Halak means destruction or perishing. This occurs when a life is cut short before that balance can be achieved. And again, the source puts the thresholds specifically under 50 years old, generally speaking.
That is a heavy concept. It implies that dying young is a sign of, what, a high entropy, an unbalanced system.
In this model, yes. It's associated with jinn instability. The system either burns out too fast or is interrupted before it can settle down into that state of ins-like balance.
And the example used here is Joseph or Yusuf.
Right. Dr. Waleed points out a very specific linguistic detail in the text. Joseph is described by his brothers as having perished, halak. And the question is why? In Dr. Waleed's view, it's because Joseph died relatively young by the standards of his time, and his life was one of immense struggle, betrayal, prison, famine, without reaching that peaceful completion phase of old age that someone like his father Jacob reached.
So his energetic potential was interrupted before it could resolve.
His voltage was too high for the duration of the vessel, perhaps. It's a fascinating, if quite controversial, way to look at mortality. It's not just your time is up. It's, did the circuit complete its purpose?
The 50-year threshold is such a specific number. It's not 40, it's not 60.
It seems to connect to the idea of the age of wisdom you find in many traditions. The idea that around 40 or 50 is when the ins pull, the stability, finally gets a handle on and tames the jinn fire of youth. If you die before that, you die in the fire. If you die after, you die in the cooling embers.
Wow. Okay, so where does this leave us? We've covered the architecture, the magnets, the pilot versus the engine, the anatomy of thought, and the math of death.
It leaves us with a grand design, a complete schematic.
Let's try and summarize this grand design as simply as we can.
Okay. We are not random biological accidents. We are, in essence, a spirit, located in the head, that acts as a pilot, guiding a magnetic soul, located in the chest, which is the engine, all housed inside a biological vehicle.
And our type, our fundamental personality, is a combination of our gender, the model of the car, and our energy polarity, the type of engine.
Dr. Waleed's view, if you accept it, removes the chaos from human personality. It's not random, it's engineering. It explains why we struggle with ourselves. It's not necessarily a moral failing, it's the physics of our internal magnets. We are constantly, every second of every day, trying to balance the ins and the jinn.
It gives you a lot more grace for yourself, doesn't it? If I'm feeling restless and chaotic, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because my jinn pull is flaring up.
And the goal isn't to destroy the jinn pull. You need it. You need that fire to get out of bed in the morning, to create, to change things. The goal is to let the spirit, the command from the head, pilot the ship so the jinn doesn't get excited and drive you off a cliff.
Dr. Waleed's work is incredibly dense, and we've really only scratched the surface today. But this structural view involves a huge shift in perspective.
It shifts us from thinking in terms of psychology to thinking in terms of energetic mechanics. It makes the problem feel, in a way, more solvable.
I want to leave our listener with a final thought. This is something to just chew on while you're driving, or washing the dishes, or trying to fall asleep tonight.
Let's hear it.
If our self, our nafs, is determined by a magnetic inclination before we are even born, if we are wired for ins calm or jinn fire in the womb, and if our spirit is a direct command from the divine, then how much of our personality is actually a choice?
That is the question, isn't it?
Are we choosing who we are? Or are we simply trying to manage the voltage we were assigned at the factory?
Are you fighting your current, or are you learning how to conduct it properly?
Exactly. Are you the pilot, or are you just along for the ride in a very powerful, very complex machine? Think about that.
It changes everything.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.